More extreme stories of revenge from history. Revenge has always been one of the rawest and most compelling human impulses. From whispers in royal courts to battles that changed the courses of rivers, revenge looms as a powerful force that has shaped nations, undermined leaders, and rewritten destinies. Today, we take you deeper into the annals of history to explore more extreme stories of revenge, tales that will shock and awe you, reminding us how far some will go to right a perceived wrong. Betrayal, loss, vengeance. These are not just words, they are the fuel that ignites extraordinary tales. Let's dive into the drama, strategy, and devastating aftershocks of humanity's obsession with revenge. Revenge isn't just a fleeting emotion, it's primal. At its heart, revenge speaks to something many of us understand, the desire for balance. When betrayal strikes or an injustice occurs, it's not just about payback, it's about restoring equilibrium no matter the cost. But revenge also has its dark allure. Sometimes the act of vengeance spirals into something more consuming and destructive than the wrong that preceded it. History is full of people who dedicated their lives and sometimes sacrificed everything in pursuit of cold, calculated revenge. Today, their names and deeds remain preserved as cautionary tales or powerful testimonies to human determination. Our first tale begins with a queen, betrayed by those she once trusted. She was a ruler of grace and immense power, respected by her people. But behind the walls of her palace, betrayal brewed. Close allies turned against her, plotting to strip her throne and rob her of everything she held dear. But this queen wasn't willing to roll over quietly. Instead, she orchestrated one of the most cunning revenge plots in history. With patience and precision, she infiltrated the ranks of her enemies, sowing seeds of misinformation and discontent among them. Like a spider weaving its web, she waited until they were at their weakest. Then she struck. What followed was a collapse so complete, her opponents were reduced to shadows of their former selves. Their kingdoms burned, their legacies shattered, while the queen stood tall, victorious, relentless, and utterly rebuilt by vengeance. This story isn't just about power reversed. It's about how betrayal can sharpen one's mind into the most devastating of weapons. So what compels someone to go to such lengths for revenge? Psychologists argue it's deeply rooted in emotions like humiliation, betrayal, and perceived injustice. When people feel powerless, revenge becomes a way to regain control. In many cases, it's not the act itself, but the journey. A cunning plan, a masterstroke of retribution that electrifies the soul. These emotions are universal. It's why revenge stories from history still resonate so strongly with us today. Wars have long been a breeding ground for vengeance, but few acts of revenge match the ingenuity and ruthlessness of a betrayed general set on destroying his former leader. This general had earned his rank through loyalty and brilliance. Yet when the time came for his leader to honor his sacrifices, he was abandoned, his name publicly smeared, his achievements stolen. Instead of bowing to disgrace, the general turned his strategic genius into an act of monumental revenge. Drawing upon knowledge of the region's geography, he devised a plan to redirect the course of two major rivers. In the process, he obliterated the leader's prize city, reducing its bustling streets to a flooded wasteland. Overnight, trade was halted, homes lost, and the prosperity of an empire drowned, literally. This wasn't a quick defeat, but a devastating long-term punishment. It was revenge delivered with the precision of a military campaign. Here's a question to ponder. Where does revenge end and justice begin? For some, acts of vengeance are seen as morally justified, a way of serving justice when no one else will. But history often blurs those lines. Could these stories be examples of righteous courage, or were they outright madness? Sometimes true revenge takes time, decades of it in this case. This is the story of a wealthy merchant swindled by his business rival. Everything he had was taken: his fortune, his reputation, and his standing in society. But instead of seeking immediate retribution, the merchant plotted, quietly, masterfully. Over the years, the merchant gathered leverage piece by piece. Loyal contacts, insider knowledge, and plenty of patience became his tools. Slowly but surely, his rival's empire began to crumble from the inside out, weakened by seemingly random events and opportunities lost. This is the story of how revenge, when fueled by patience and strategy, can destroy more thoroughly than rage ever could. Revenge, particularly in its most extreme forms, often sends ripples far beyond the immediate act. These moments of personal vengeance can impact entire eras, reshaping power structures and challenging societal norms. The drowned cities, ruined empires, and dethroned leaders are reminders that revenge is rarely ever confined to the avenger and their target. But sometimes revenge isn't cold or strategic. It's emotional, impulsive, and devastatingly swift. In one such tale, a ruler's heart was broken by the ultimate betrayal from their lover. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it involved treachery that put the ruler's life and power at stake. Unable to forgive this profound rupture, the ruler set about dismantling everything that defined their former love, their family, land, and influence. Bit by bit, the scorned lover ensured that the person who betrayed them was left with nothing but ash and regret. Ironically, this act of revenge also permanently reshaped the political structure of the region, leading to consequences far beyond the heartache that started it all. History's most fascinating revenge stories often carry strange, symbolic undertones. A collapsed bridge, a poisoned cup of wine, or the blasting away of statues. These seemingly small actions often represent something larger. To the avenger, these acts of destruction are deeply personal, but to the rest of us, they turn into lasting, haunting symbols of how far someone is willing to go. And speaking of lasting impact, let's explore how entire generations have suffered under the shadow of revenge. Revenge isn't always a single act. It can stretch across lifetimes, catching children and grandchildren in its web. In one infamous family feud from history, two royal houses clashed not just over power, but deep-seated personal hatred. Revenge burned so fiercely between the families that it led to wars, arranged marriages plotted with betrayal in mind, and even assassinations of heirs to prevent peace. Over generations, these families destroyed almost everything they ruled. What began as an act of personal vengeance evolved into a cycle of mistrust and bloodshed, leaving an indelible stain on history. Revenge isn't always reserved for kings, generals, or queens. Some of history's most astonishing revenge tales come from those considered powerless, people with no armies, no wealth, and no influence. Yet through wit, persistence, and formidable ingenuity, they managed to exact their due. One underdog story tells of a small-town figure humiliated and cast aside by a powerful bureaucrat. Over years, the figure amassed secret documents, exposed wrongdoings, and turned public opinion against the mighty official. Their revenge wasn't just personal, it carried societal consequences, bringing justice to those who had also suffered under the bureaucrat's corruption. While history glorifies revenge as transformative and triumphant, not all tales end with satisfied avengers. Many who sought vengeance found themselves consumed by the very act. Their single-minded determination to settle scores stripped them of all else: loved ones, opportunities, or even peace. One such figure, a ruler avenging the murder of a sibling, razed half a kingdom to the ground, trying to smoke out the guilty. In the end, not only was the target lost, but so was the future of their own bloodline. So why do these stories of vengeance still captivate us? Maybe they speak to our desire for justice when the scales seem unbalanced. They let us witness the dramatic twists and chaos of raw human emotion, where cunning triumphs over power and personal betrayal eclipses grand narratives. Revenge also makes us reflect on ourselves. In seeking justice, do we lose more than we gain? And when pushed to the edge, how far would we go to reclaim what's been taken? Revenge is visceral, emotional, and unforgettable. It's why Hollywood scripts are built on it, why ancient tragedies center around it, and why history is littered with extraordinary acts of retribution. In the tales we've explored today, revenge wasn't just about evening the score. It was about legacy, power, and the sometimes dangerous allure of evening the odds by any means necessary. These stories, though steeped in history, remind us of something deeply human, the primal urge to make our voices heard when others try to silence us. Perhaps the real question isn't who's right or wrong in their pursuit of vengeance, but rather whether revenge changes anything at all, or does it simply start another cycle of destruction? The curtain closes on this chapter of Asterisk. More extreme stories of revenge from history Asterisk, but trust us, many more shocking and breathtaking tales await for those daring enough to listen. Stay tuned for the next chapter in this thrilling saga of humanity's most personal and often most destructive impulse.